Heavenly Father, we come to you with a heart eagerly know your words and also the Bible background, so that the background will enrich our understanding of your word, and so that we know the meaning of your truth, so that we can apply it appropriately in our Christian journey of faith, our walk with you, and strengthen our understanding this afternoon and the next, and also every time as we gather learning your word. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Old Testament introduction, or introduction to the Old Testament, is longer, just the same. Okay, whatever you see from this word map, it's all about the Bible background, the Lord, okay, and then Old Testament and the name of the books, and also some words like Judah, Israel, Sinai, and etc. This is called word map. Okay, sometimes you just word map New Testament, and then the other things come out. Okay, so let's look at the PPT. Introduction to Old Testament, or introduction to New Testament, introduction to whatever lah. The word introduction is about background. Okay, when we introduce someone, that means you introduce about what? The name. After the name is perhaps where he or she come from. Okay, and then where he or she studied. How many years of working experience, and then affiliated with what denominations, institution. That's about the person. So introduction is the word about. So we are talking about these 2 weeks about Old Testament. That means not very much to do with the text, but have to do a lot with the background, okay, behind the text. Okay, and that is important. For example, Exodus event. We all know the book of Exodus, right? Okay, the book of Exodus, and then the whole thing about slavery, house of slavery in the ancient Egypt. And then they came out, God delivered them through Moses. But then, this Exodus event, if we put the whole thing against the background of the ancient Near Eastern background, that means ancient Near Eastern, specifically to Egypt, it is very interesting. For example, mighty hand. Exodus chapter 6 verse 1. Can someone read the Bible verse? Okay. Not just from 6:1, Exodus, many other places, but then, for example, Exodus chapter 6 verse 1. Anyone? Or maybe together? 1, 2, 3. And the Bible said to Moses, "Now what I will do to Pharaoh, indeed, by a mighty hand, he will let him go. By a mighty hand, he will drive them out. By a mighty hand." So the Lord is speaking to the Israelites through Moses. Of course, the Lord is speaking. He said, "By my mighty hand." This word, mighty hand, as we read the Bible, we understand naturally it refers to the hand of God, right? But then the Lord was speaking to His people, not yet called the Israelites, but the Hebrews. Okay, that time they don't have a country called Israel yet, right? So ethnically speaking, racially speaking, they are Hebrew people. So the Hebrew slaves. So you notice these words are being used. Only after when they have a country, a nation called Israel, then United Kingdom, then they will call Israelite. Alright? So the Hebrews. Naturally to them, this group of slaves in Egypt, okay, for them, the mighty hand is not God, originally, but now the Lord is emphasizing to them, the mighty hand, my mighty hand. When the ancient Hebrew people, they heard the mighty hand of someone, the someone must be Pharaoh. Have you been to Egypt before? Okay, maybe some of you have. I have been. I led biblical tours to Israel and also to Egypt. Okay, so connect the Bible and Bible land. Alright, so I do teaching. And then I'm amazed with this ancient civilization of Egypt. and also come to realize how important it is, the Exodus event to the Hebrew people then, and then to us now. It was a very, how to say, very powerful Pharaoh they are dealing with. Okay, if you've been to Egypt, you saw monuments after monuments, or temples after temples, the depiction of Pharaoh outside or inside the ruins. We call ruins, it's actually World Heritage buildings, very valuable. Outside and inside, the depiction of Pharaoh, very gigantic kind of drawing or engraving. The hand is always like this. Okay, you can Google and see. Just now I heard someone say I Google. You Google Pharaoh, and then the depiction, the drawings, even the relics, always like this, or like this, or like this. Okay, so who were the people building all these monuments, engraving? The slaves, the hard laborers, which includes the Hebrews. Okay, so to them, every day what they saw is this mighty hand of Pharaoh. And to display his power, authority, and his influence of all the territory at the time is to how to say, promote, okay, through their artwork and their monuments. Okay, so mighty hand. But now in the book of Exodus, the Lord is telling Moses to tell the Israelites, mighty hand is my mighty hand. That means to, how to say, to correct their thinking, which they are accustomed to. Mighty hand, no longer Pharaoh, but the Lord himself. And it takes the Lord so much effort to persuade them to leave Egypt. Right? When we read the book of Exodus, we must be thinking, these are house of slavery. If I were them, I would leave quickly, right? Think again. Because when everywhere, okay, in the land was having famine, only Egypt got food, right? That's why they came to Egypt. All the land have famine, and then so many years, and people go to Joseph, selling their lands, their animals, finally selling themselves, okay, correct, become slaves because no food. That's why the narrative of the stories of the patriarchs, and then Jacob and the son, of course Joseph came first lah. So they were there, and then they was saved. So that also explains why when the Israelites, after they left Egypt through miraculous encounters, and then they were in the wilderness, and then when they don't have food, when they don't have water to drink, they become grumbling, and they say, let's go back to Egypt, right? Because food, and also because they are protected. In the sense, although being slave, no freedom, but I prefer to go back. So that's the background we have to understand. So the mighty hand, God is, that's the rhetoric of God, saying that my hand is more powerful, mightier than Pharaoh. And through the 10 plagues, the Lord is showing them that He is mightier than Pharaoh and also all the gods of Egypt. Okay, when we talk about these 10 plagues here, okay, actually one after another, it is a power encounter between God, okay, the Lord Yahweh, against the Egyptian gods. There are hundreds of Egyptian gods in an ancient civilization. Very much like our ancient Chinese or ancient Indian. Perhaps I say Chinese I know better. You know, there are many gods, among the folk religionists in Malaysia. They believe in the 8 gods, the gods, goddesses, goddess of mercy, okay, even monkey god, even the god with third eye in the middle. You're familiar? Yeah. Okay, the pantheon of God, we say in ancient Egypt also like that, ancient Greece also, that means the pantheon. They believe in many gods. So if the ancient Egyptian were to worship one god every day, different god every day, well, 365 days, not enough for them. Because it's more than that, okay, hundreds of gods. So whatever, how to say, whatever connected to their survival, economically speaking, all the gods are involved. For example, cow god, okay, because they need to plant and then have a harvest, they need to worship this god, not just one, it could be several, okay, and then they have this cow head and human body. They have crocodile god. Crocodile god is called Sobek, S-O-B-E-K. You can Google and see what crocodile head, human body. Okay, and then even frogs. Okay, even Nile River. Nile River, one of the most famous gods is called Osiris. Perhaps you have heard before. And his wife is called Isis. I-S-I-S is the goddess of life. Okay, so powerful, huh? I will tell you, we talk about all these gods because the 10 plagues are actually a power encounter between God, the Yahweh, against these gods. Okay, when the Nile River become blood, okay, that means the gods or goddesses, usually it's gods of Nile River, they cannot function. They lose out. Okay, and then when there is one god called Ra. That means sun god. Very good, sun god, and depends on which pharaoh. Okay, some pharaoh will say he's the greatest among also sun god Ra, and they sing hymns to worship Ra. Okay, some of the hymns are very familiar. I mean, just one or two very familiar from the book of Psalms. Okay, talking about the sun like bridegroom come out and then very alive. All these are make us remind us of how their life has been in the land of Egypt. Okay, and then sun god become powerless because one of the 10 plagues is darkness, right? So sun god, not effective. Okay, and then Isis, the goddess of life, she was believed to be able to bring people from death. Okay, she actually brought her husband Osiris alive from death. Okay, that's the ancient mythology of Egypt. And encountering death, pervasive, happening at the 10th plague. That means the eldest, okay, the firstborn, the death of firstborn. Even Isis cannot revive the dead. So you can see or not, just a few examples. The cow, we understand about cow god. Cow also got boils. I mean, they have plagues among them. And then the people also have boils over their body, the skins, right? Actually, ancient Egypt, their medicine is quite famous, you know. There is one engineer by the name of Imhotep. Okay, you can type and Google. He was an engineer behind the construction of maybe the pyramids. Okay, and also he's very good in medicine. So much so that when he died, people call him gods, the gods of healing. Okay, so the appointment that they have in the ancient time, famous, people come and want to seek after this medicine. So even so, those people who were born during the 10 plagues, they cannot heal themselves. So you can see if we study, in details, we can tell all this background help us to understand it is a power encounter, and also God determined to bring His people out of Egypt, and God is determined to tell His people who might have forgotten who God is. You know how many years they are in Egypt? Over 400 years, and 430 to be exact. Out of so many years, perhaps, let's say half of the years they were slaves. Because the Bible said there was one pharaoh who doesn't know Joseph, and then suddenly make all the foreigners, including Hebrews, become his slave. Okay? So, perhaps let's say half, 200 years, so many years they are in hardship. They might have forgotten about God, you know? But they won't forget about their ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, right? So, but God still remember them. Okay, so when God appealed to Moses, He gave Moses chapter 3, Exodus. When you read Bible, did you realize why the repetition of I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob? Why the repetition? People might have forgotten. Even Moses. Moses was trained as the prince of Egypt, one of them, right? Wow, how to make war, how to win in battle, and strong and mighty. That's how he was trained. So for Moses himself, he was also accustomed to this pantheon of gods in Egypt and all the arts and science, so strong and powerful at the time. Okay, ancient Egypt. So, and then when he encountered God, he asked, "What is your name?" Right? So when God telling him the name, it's actually a rhetoric behind. I'm not the gods that you know, Egypt. Okay? So God refused to give name. He said, I am who I am. It's not really a name. Later on, the I am who I am, first person. Later on, become he will be, third person. So the Yahweh, YHWH came about. That's how the development of the name later become names. But then earlier, God refused to tell him name. Okay? Because I'm not the God like gods you know. I'm not like ancient Egyptian gods. Okay, I am who I am. Wow, this is a very powerful declaration. So all this with the background of ancient Egypt, the gods and goddesses, then we understand, including serpent, the staff, the serpent of staff Moses become snake and then swallow the snakes from the pharaoh's magicians. Remember, all these are power encounter. Power at least, okay, you look at this. Wait, I need to slow down because too many material to. You see the snake, serpent head on Pharaoh's helmet. Okay. By the way, the Pharaoh are all botak, at that time, because to them hair is unclean, and then to the noble people, they all shave their hair, their beard, and then even the body hair, so it is clean. So if you see movie, when the Pharaoh take out the hair gate, it's botak, right? That's how it should be. Even the queens, alright? Even the queens, all this Cleopatra kind of hairstyle, actually inside is botak, all are weak, but then beautiful, right? So, the hair gate, okay, the headgear is a snake, which means power, which means authority. So it depends on the influence of the Pharaoh, whether he ruled the upper Egypt or lower Egypt. Ancient Egypt got upper and lower. Upper means those closer to desert, and the lower means closer to the delta, that means to the Mediterranean Sea. Lower, that's why the river flow lower, right? Lower Egypt, upper Egypt. If the Pharaoh dominions is on these two, upper and lower Egypt, beside the headgear is a snake, there is also an eagle. That means his dominion is these two territories, which means he's very powerful. Okay, so serpent. Now Moses' staff becomes serpent and swallow the serpents of the magician of Egypt. You also know what does it mean, right? Burning bush, fire. No, they don't have electricity. So fire means everything. Even fire themselves inside, okay, it's also a depiction of God's power, to the Egyptians. So now, fire, burning, and then burning bush, and then not destroyed, right? To Moses, to himself, it is really like something amazing. Because what he accustomed to see from his past experience, his life in Egyptian, told him that this is God, fire God. But then this fire does not destroy the bush. Okay? So all these are telling us that from this background of plurality of gods, God bring them out and then led them to the wilderness of Sinai, making covenant with them and tell them there is no God beside me. Okay? You worship only one God now, unlike in the past. Then we understand. God is telling them and showing them, demonstrating to them His power is above all these gods. Okay? So to us, reading Bible, of course we understand mighty hand is God's hand. We know God's power is above all other idols of God, or gods. But then to the Israelites at that time, the Hebrews, they don't have such conviction. Okay? They have been slaves for, let's say, 200 years. And they might have forgotten about God, and they were so comfortable because of food, water available because of downriver, ancient civilization because of agriculture. agriculture. So all these civilizations are strong, powerful because of river, like ancient China, like ancient India, Ganges River, China, what river already? Yangtze, yeah, Yangtze and also Huanghe, right? And also Bible, Mesopotamia, Euphrates and Tigris. Okay, that's why the ancient empire, they were so strong. Assyrian, Babylonian, Persia, which we are going to cover later. Why so strong? Because of strong, how to say, economical status in this agriculture, and then because of this water. And then, why Egypt was so strong? Because of Nile River. Okay, and that is the source of life, or source of food, source of subsistence. So source of their comforts and security. That's why whenever they face difficulties, let's go back to Egypt. That also makes us ponder on ourselves, Whenever we have life difficulties, challenges in life, and then we think of the old past. I was so free before believing in God. Before following Jesus, I can do whatever I want. Now it's like, now I cannot. Now the pastor will scold me. Or people will counsel me. Wow, I have to play a good person, So think of the old past and why not? I still admire those days. I can have night parties, whatever. So sometimes reflect us, right? When we face life encounter, we grumbling, just like the Israelite. And then we also blame the leaders. They blame Moses and Aaron. So much like us, right? And then we forgot God is powerful than all these things, including the power of the idols. Okay, the world of the text. Terminologies, when we talk about introduction, it is about the world behind the text. Okay, when we talk about survey of the Bible, survey of Old Testament, that's book by book. So it is the world of the text. Okay, so let's say next year, Pastor Pastor Yit, she said, let's study the Pentateuch, that means the first 5 books, and then book by book. That's the survey of the Old Testament or survey of the Pentateuch, book by book. So that means dwell in the world of the text and study chapter by chapter. But then introduction is more about background. And then when we talk about interpretation or exegesis, a term which scare people, interpretation is more, gentle. The word in front of the text, meaning who is standing in front of the text when you open the Bible? That's you, me, the reader. The focus is on the reader. How I read the text, how I understand it, okay, how I interpret it. Okay, so when we talk about this, these 2 weeks, introduction to the Old Testament, we are talking about background. Introduce. That means we are going to look at history, language, archaeology, religion, political context, geography, and etc. There's so much to cover in Old Testament introduction. So in the seminary where I'm serving, I teach Old Testament introduction, 14 weeks, every week 3 hours. So this week, next Saturday, we're going to have 6. So we can't cover all, right? So I just picked 3 topics. I hope I can cover all, but if not, we don't rush. You have the notes with you. So let's look at the history and geography today. Okay, at least today lah. If we are okay, then we can go to the next, which is the ancient civilization. Talk more about Egypt, Assyrian, Babylonian. Okay, some of them are very much alive, Okay, so Bible history. Some of us may already have a firm grasp when you read Bible, and if you like to read books, especially Bible-related books. Like me, I like reading a lot. Then this Bible background, history could be just peanuts for you. Okay, but still, we're going to go through very quickly. Old Testament history is about 2000 BC, before Christ, until 400 BC. Okay? You can use BCE, before Common Era. That's how non-Christian they like to use. Among the Christians, we use BC, before Christ. So, Old Testament history has this, span across 1,600 years. That's why some people think Old Testament is so difficult to grasp, so far away. Okay, and then intertestamental period. That is the period between Old Testament and New Testament, 400 years. So 400 BC until about 4 BC, that's the year most people believe that Jesus was born. What happened? Nothing in the Bible. But then extra biblical material, extra Bible material, a lot of things happened, including the change of empires, the change of governments, and also the change of life of worship. And also a lot of texts actually emerged during that time. We just don't know. Have you heard of Apocrypha? That means the second canonical books. Our Old Testament and New Testament we call canonical books. Canon, they are canon. But then intertestamental period, there are some writings which are not used by Christians, Protestants, but are used by Roman Catholics. Okay, those are called Apocrypha. Have you heard of First Maccabean, Second Maccabean, Susanna, the book of Susanna, the book of Judith? Have you heard? Okay, never mind. Or the prayer of Esther, our Esther, but then the prayer, because in the book of Esther, our Bible, Esther didn't mention about prayer, just fast, right? But then the prayer of Esther, that's called Apocrypha. If you go to MPH or sometimes the book, how to say, Big Bad Wolf, okay, they have this selling a lot of books. They sell Bibles too. You can maybe you can pick up a Bible with Apocrypha, which means besides 39 Old Testament books and 27 New Testament books, there are maybe 13 or 15, depends on what versions of Apocrypha in between. That's called the Bible with Apocrypha. Okay, I bought one from book exhibition and I enjoy reading. Also got stories, even Daniel stories. You know, the book of Susanna is related to Daniel. Okay, so all these 400 years, persecution happened to God's people. Okay, and then change of empire from Persia and then to Greece and then later on to Romans. That's the New Testament already. So you see a lot of things happen. And then one or two books are believed. For example, the book of Daniel. Many scholars believe the second half of the book of Daniel, which talk about visions, okay, actually writings about what is happening during those periods, persecution, okay, where the people of God are being strongly persecuted, many people die, but then hopeful reminder, there's a hope, okay, saying that God is still in control, and then one empire rises, another empire falls. God actually determined the festival, the time, and the season. Wow, those very bold declaration actually happening at that time. Very strong faith when people of God are facing strong persecution. Okay, so we don't have anything recorded in the Bible. So if you are interested in the intertestamental period, you read a lot of like Bible background. It will tell you, and also some of the writings. Actually, this is a very interesting period. Okay, and then New Testament history, 4 BC to 80 AD. So short New Testament. That's why many people like New Testament. Old Testament is so 1,600 years compared to not even 80 years. Okay, New Testament also interesting because the Bible stated that the Lord Jesus has come, incarnate, God incarnate, so make the Old Testament prophecy, okay, fulfill, and the Gospels, including later Paul the Apostle, reinterpret the Bible, meaning reinterpret the Old Testament, okay, in the light of Christ coming. The Messiah has come. The anointed one has come. Wow, all this become, how to say, confident for Christians. So therefore, so we look at the Old Testament history. Patriarchal period. Who are the patriarchs? You remember? I mentioned this. Abraham and then so first Isaac first. We forget Isaac. You know why? There are not many depiction about him. Not many chapters, right? and then Jacob, very long, including his son, Joseph. But Joseph is not patriarch. Joseph is put under Jacob, the cycle, right? But then Joseph is very special. So those patriarchal period, many things happen, many stories. We call narratives. Usually we don't call stories, but narratives. That means the depiction of the Bible characters and also the events and happenings. Patriarchal period shaped the foundation and the background where, the first batch of God's people, when they do not have this worship system and religious institution established at the time, how did they encounter God? Still they encounter God, right? God is telling Abraham, chapter 12, Genesis, that he will be blessed and his descendant will be like stars of the sky, and then sand of the sea, and then who will be blessed? The world, like all people, not just his descendant. Of course, his descendant will be blessed, but then all people. So from the book of Genesis until the last book of the Bible, Revelation, the perspective of all nations, all people are there, first book and the last book. Although the election, that means the chosen people of God through Abraham, is already established in the beginning, the book of Genesis. So do not lose sight of this perspective of all nations, all people. The book of Revelation says all people and all tongues shall praise, all people will know God, and then all knees shall bow, right, to worship God. And in the beginning, the calling of Abraham, God has told him that all nations will be blessed through you and your descendants. And that also to us is meaningful, all people will be blessed through us. Meaning we are people of God. How do we testify for God? As God ambassador. Okay, do we bring people to God, or we actually testify wrongly? So, your God is like that. So it's so important, right, for us. Even more so in the New Testament, when they are being, given the mandate to make disciples of all nations in the book of Acts. Okay, now become the mission, for them. But then not so much in the Old Testament, is it? Still in the Old Testament, God's people are to be an example. Okay, to all the people, and where they are supposed to live according to God's plan, God's Torah, that means God's law, where often they fail God. That's why the prophets are so busy, rebuking people, bringing them back to God, and then telling them where have gone wrong, and then ask them to repent, and then return, right? They're so busy, the Old Testament prophet. And then when finally they really face the consequences of their disobedience to God's law, finally they lost their country, they lost their independence, they lost their kings. So those are the time the prophets, again, they are busy, different batch of prophets, consoling, comforting, and then communicating hope. Remember, even Isaiah got message of hope. Okay, chapter 40 onwards, they said comfort my people. And then saying that, build the highway for the Lord, not for people to walk, but for God to come, bring his people back to Judah. Wow, this is a hope, message of hope. So prophets are as such where, we so fast we talk about prophets already. Okay, after the patriarch, and then Joseph, how he ended up in Egypt, so dramatic. I mean, so many faith lessons, The difficulties that we face in the light of what Joseph has gone through. At the times we think people are bad against us, no good. Whatever happens to us, like Joseph being, betrayed by his brothers, and then, was sold as a slavery, and then later on, God was with him and he prospered. That's the repetition of God's narrative, right? God was with him, and then he became the second man, so powerful, so much so that the brothers didn't recognize him, and then he became their protector. And then he, with his godly perspective, he said, last time you meant for evil, right? But God meant for good. Wow, such profound. So they ended up in Egypt, all of them come because of famine, and then because they need food, and then at that time, because Joseph is a very good leader. He's good in administration and management. Some people even say the slavery system has to do with Joseph. Because at the time, all the people already sold out their lands to Pharaoh, so Pharaoh became very powerful, and then they give all their money, whatever, and then give themselves, to be your hard labor. So under that time, the message, chapter 47, the book of Genesis, say that Joseph, he actually gathered all the slaves from this city to that city. Some translations say this city to that city, but then another translation, newer translation say this group of slaves to that group of slaves. Why? Because the Hebrew, the city and slaves, city is ear, slave is abed, sounds different, but then the writing are very close. So it could be, because there are different manuscripts saying that actually it's not referring to city, referring to slaves. Meaning, during the administrations of Joseph, he was making slaves, for Pharaoh. Without knowing that later generations, his own people become slaves of Pharaoh. Those are one of the Old Testament studies. They say, so, but no doubt, Joseph is a very good administrator, wise, wise in the court, and also later on we see the period of Mosaic period. His period, that means his era, has to do with Exodus, because he was the one God chosen to be the mediator, between God and his people through making covenant, alright? And also before that, he is the one who played the role of a political leader, free God's people from Egypt, bring them out, and then, make a covenant with God in Mount Sinai, at the foot of Mount Sinai, and then we call Moses' law. It's actually not Moses' law, it's God's law, Torah, 10 commandments, and then the book of covenants, telling them how to behave, how to live as God's people, be holy because God is holy, and also how to love your neighbor. In the past, what they know is, you hit me, I hit you back, That's how people live in a lawless state. And also Moses was like that, right? Killed people, people hit his people, and then he killed him, and then buried, thinking that no one knows. Who knows? People knows, And then Pharaoh seeking after him, he ran, and then the story of Moses is very interesting. How the first 40 years he was trained with all kind of skills. Art of war as a prince, and then strong, and also so when he ran to wilderness, people thought he is an Egyptian. Why? The costume can tell how you wear, right? So he is like a prince, clean, no beard, and then the way he wear. So later on, the second 40 years he was in wilderness, shepherding the sheep. So how? His hair grew. So when he appeared at the horizon back to Egypt, he was like a shepherd, like the usual Israelite shepherd. And then Egyptians treat this kind of people very dirty. That's why they don't eat together with them. Remember in the book of Genesis, the Pharaoh's house people, they don't eat with Joseph's family because they are all shepherds, so there are distinction, So after that second 40 years, Moses bring people, and then he was in the wilderness, and then he bring people out of Egypt. The last 40 years, Moses 120 years, we all know, right? The last 40 years was the wandering in the wilderness, together with Israel, with God's people, when he lead them. So you can see the change of Moses from the beginning to the end. From the very beginning, he has everything. Proud, arrogant, and also very, short-tempered, can kill people, but then God trained him, make him gentle, humble, with a group of flocks. stiff-necked people, because God is preparing him with all he needs in order to lead his people in the wilderness. And imagine, was Moses patient? Actually, he's very patient, right? Unlike before, wow, he saw people kill the king's folk and then he killed them. But then in the wilderness, he really displayed a remarkable leadership and patience. He's one of my favorite characters in the Bible. Okay, Mosaic period. The next is conquest of Canaan, Joshua's era. So when you read the Bible stories, especially Moses, do you like Moses? How do you feel when he didn't get a chance? God said you cannot go to the promised land because he did not, how to say? What's the Bible say? Louder? And disobedient in front of the elders. Okay? Just one mistake only now. So it tells us what now? Don't simply throw temper. That's another way of saying also. Actually, there is another group of scholars who view the things constructively, not negatively, saying that Moses has served his time. Now it is a time for Joshua to take over. So why? Because God asked him to command the rock to have water, right? But then he used his staff to heat, right? Why he used the staff to heat? Because that's the way he knows best, man. In the past, before, God asked him to hit the rock so the water come out. Oh, that's the way he is accustomed with. That's the way he knows. We all have our own skill set and know-how, right? So that's his know-how. But then when God asks him, you just command the rock, okay, and then the water will come out, he still hit. Meaning what? Your method is old already. Now the new leader, Joshua, has to come out from the horizon. So that's a very interesting way of seeing the whole thing. But when I read the story of Moses, I was actually very saddened. I said, "Ayo God, you're a bit like too, you're a bit too severe. I mean, he's your humble servant, right? You have spent so much effort and time shaping him, developing him, and he's actually buried outside the promised land, Mount Nebo. Yeah, I went there before. Mount Nebo, they established a church to commemorate, to remember him. Okay, the church is a beautiful church now. Did Moses appear in the promised land? No, so fast, give up already. I don't give up. Read until New Testament. Transfiguration, yes, very good. Wow, very good, Bible knowledge. Pastor, give an A, Transfiguration of Jesus. What happened? Who appeared? Elijah and Moses. And where were they? Standing inside promised land. No, that's Mount of Transfiguration. That's Canaan land, right? So Moses actually entered into promised land. Praise God. Then I'm consoled. I'm comforted. All right, so, okay, Mosaic period. By the way, it's interesting. During the Mosaic period, he is very instrumental, okay, to make covenant, for God to make covenant with his people. So he's the propitiation that we call. Many people, when talk about Moses, think about Jesus, one. Propitiation between God and people. And then he's the one who actually in between, also intercessor, he intercedes, pray for God's people, especially when they are disobedient. Okay, so he is playing, he plays important roles in making covenant, okay, between God and his people, setting up tabernacle, the sanctuary, so-called sanctuary, the place of worship. Before that, during the patriarchal period, how they worship God? They encounter God, or they dream about God, then they erect a stone, okay, and then anoint with oil, and then give a name. Bethel, for example. Remember Bethel, Genesis chapter 28, okay? Jacob, they said, house of God. And then another time, saw messenger of God, on the letter. Okay, so they named that place, to commemorate their theophanies, meaning encounter with God. But then Moses' time, God tells him to tell his people, you have to worship me in this way. No longer, erect of stone, no longer primitive way, even got idols, Rachel's height, what do you call that? An idol, right? An image, right? Okay, so they also have this type of expression of worship. But then after Moses, he is the one who established the worship system, okay? Institutionalized the worship system in Israel. So he is the one who played a very important role in making covenants. And also another way is that besides worship, there is one dimension which is very, easily being overlooked by people, is the way of ethics. Actually making covenant with God, not just worship right, have to live right. Okay? Chapter 20 of the book of Exodus, talking about 10 commandments. By the way, I don't know why it's translated as commandments. The Hebrew words is 10 words. It's Devarim. Davar is singular word. Devarim is words. 10 words. That means 10 sentences from God. It's not even command, It's actually loving words. Reminder from God, you have to live right. Okay? Now the 10 commandments, so-called 10 commandments. And then chapter 21 to 23 in the book of Exodus is talking about how to live among people as God's people, including how to love your neighbor, how to live ethically. For example, if let's say someone were to borrow money from you, at the time no money just borrow something from you, so you have to put another thing for him to become, what do you call that? Collateral, okay. Chinese name called 当头. That means something to secure so that you can return the things. So if the fellow didn't return you, okay, according to law of Moses, if the fellow didn't return you, but the sun set already, you have to return the things to him, because the thing could be his cloth, okay, his outer garment. And this person, he's poor, that's why he needs to borrow money. He needs this piece of cloth to cover himself at night, because it is cold at night. Okay, so we learn about how to treat people ethically, okay, in a loving manner, so that this person is taken care of. Meaning, God is training His people to consider the benefit of others. When you have, you share. When people don't have, you take care. Wow, that kind of living lifestyle, which is very different from last time, before, when they were slaves. Okay? So, besides worship, that's ethics in the whole making covenant, the idea. Mosaic period shaped the direction where God's people should worship and also how God people should live. The love your neighbor concept actually comes from Mosaic period. Okay, making covenant, not just in the New Testament, So old, second book, Exodus. Okay, how to love your neighbor in action. You don't have to feel good about the person, but then you take care. The person in need, you help, even though you don't like him, even though he is your enemy. So, supposing your enemy, you don't like the person. So his sheep, one of the sheep come to your house. That means got lost. So how you treat the thing? As Chinese? I don't know. I'm from non-Christian family, so how we were raised, you say, shh, don't tell, keep quietly. And that become our possession. That's how I was, I was raised, in a non-Christian family. But then as Christians, as God's people, you have to return the sheep to the owner, even though the owner is your enemy. That's how God tells people, this is how you should live. Live ethically. And then you are holy because I'm holy. Wow! So that means the Sinai covenant through Moses have reshaped. God wants to reshape their life. we read carefully the book of Exodus, our life will change. Especially the law code. A bit boring, to do. But actually it's talking about living ethically. So becoming God's people, not just worship right, live right. That's also our lessons to take home. Okay? We attend worship, right? We come for prayer meetings, right? Never fail one, must come. Sunday, But then do we live right? The non-Sundays, the weekdays, in workplace, in our family, among our neighborhood, are we living right? Okay, so these are the messages we can ponder upon. And after that, conquest of Canaan, the era of judges. They do not judge, they just lead. They lead people, sometimes against, war, when they are invaded by people. Conquest of Canaan. Okay, when Joshua took over the leadership, he leads people into this Canaan land, the land flowing with milk and honey. It is an imagery, not the whole land flowing with milk and honey. What kind of land is that? It's an imagery saying what? It's a fertile land. Whatever you sow, you will reap. Harvest is good, okay? So, and then the book of Joshua, the repetition of God's reminder to Joshua is that do not let the word of God be turned away from your mouth, right? That means you live your life in this promised land according to what I have told you. Okay, that means the covenant. But very fast, very soon, the people of God, when enter into the promised land and they live, they start building houses. Actually, very fast, they also accustom themselves to the local cultures. Canaanite religion. Now they left Egyptian religion, they come to Canaanite religion's background. What is one of the famous gods among the Canaanite people? Baal, very good, Wow, Pastor, your people is amazing, So no wonder, everyone score 100. Baal is the Hebrew word for Lord or Master. Okay, and he is a god of what? Correct. Louder. Fertility god, okay. Meaning agriculture, fertility means rain, no? He is a god of thunder. Like the Avenger, Thor, with hammer on one hand, and then the lightning on the other hand. This is the really archaeological findings, the depiction of Baal. One hand holding hammer, the other hand holding the thunder. Okay, that means he will bring rain, he will bring thunderstorm. Okay, and then he can make the land fertile. Okay, this kind of worship system among Canaanite religion, they have to appease the god more. So how they appease the god? Baal, by giving sacrifice. Okay, sacrifice of people, sacrifice of infants. Actually depicted in the Bible, infants, children, even the kings, some of the kings, Israel kings, they give their children up as worship, as sacrifice, and then that's one thing. The other thing is that when the worship of Baal centers among this, fertility, and to make the god a fertility god, a fertile god, that means the believers, they have to do something to motivate the fertility. You know what I mean or not? That means the believers themselves, they must have committed sexual activities so that the god Baal can have sexual activities with his consorts or his wife. That was Asherah and Ashtaroth. You come across the names? It's in the Bible, okay? That means he has one wife, another is a concubine. So that the gods, they are okay, then they will bring fertility to the land. So those are the belief system among the Canaanite religion. Okay? That's why before they enter, Moses already told them in the book of Deuteronomy, when you enter into the land, do not follow their way of life. Do not follow their way of worship. Okay? But remember God's law. Remember? Moses keep reminding them. But then very soon when they enter, they succumb to the local culture. Why? That's how I read the Bible in the past, without knowing the background. Okay? And then more and more, scholarly research, archaeological findings, discoveries of these ancient ruins of temple. Definitely not Israelite temple because it's different, okay? And then they said, wow, the Canaanite religion, the temples are so gigantic, the size, okay? So, okay, in short, for God's people to enter into Canaan land, they bring along with them the Ark of Covenant, right? Believing that God is with them in this covenant. So it just, the Ark of Covenant is just a box, you know. Okay, the Ark of Covenant in Hebrew is a box. That means they can carry. Alright? So when they enter and they say, wow, the temple of Baal, so big, so huge, and also they have systems of this temple priest and priestess. For those believers who are male, they can, because they need to have sexual activities to stimulate the fertility gods to act, okay? So that means it's very systematic, very gigantic, very rich. So it is a religion which attracts people, okay? Also can promise fertility, that means harvest, money, okay, and wealth, prosperity. Okay, so when people of God, they enter into Canaan land, for them, they begin slowly to absorb the local culture. They did not forget God totally, but they have a rivalry in God's faithfulness. Okay? They worship Baal in the afternoon, but morning they go to the temple. That's we call syncretism, religious syncretism. You know, synchronize? Our phone can synchronize with our computer, right? So this syncretism, religious also can now. Now it happens among some Christians, you know. Okay? Like some Chinese, I'm a Christian convert from folk religion background, so I can understand perfectly. Okay, some old belief still follow some Chinese people. For example, if you want to have good luck, you wear red color. For example, so even university students, you know, when I studied in university, wow, I saw some of my classmates, whenever they go to examination hall, they must wear red. I don't know, maybe inside also lah, I don't know. Why? Because that means you can score high. Even among Christians, do we have that kind of thinking? We Chinese don't like number 4. Why? I want to ask. Why? That's die lah. You also know, but we like 8, 5, and 9. That means long. Okay, longevity, long. Okay, 5 is only prosperity. Okay, we still believe that. So these are what we call old systems of belief, and then some Christians whom I know, I mean not many, but then when they pray, they ask for God's blessing of children, but they don't have, they will think of the goddess of mercy. Okay, and then they go and worship Guan Yin, for example. Okay, because give blessings of descendant children, for example. I'm talking about what we encounter now is not new. Actually, in the Bible, people are so attracted to local cultures because it is promising and it's popular. Popular religion is Baal worship. So what is Baal worship today? For us, in order not to forget we are God's people, can you think of a Baal modern day? Superstition, yeah? Okay. Do you think? Okay, feng shui, good. Money? Wow, success? You know, many people, they can compromise their belief in order to get rich. Also, how many of you use? Okay, is handphone your Baal? It can be, you know, every morning. Because it's so fast, it's so efficient, you can do everything with your phone. Every morning when you wake up, the first thing you touch is your phone or not? Me too, because I need to switch off my alarm. Wow, phone can be our modern day, but also we use that with care, right? Every time when I depend it too much, I say, you are not my God, you are my slave, or you are my servant, okay? I'm not your slave. I have to remind myself, because it has become so handy and so powerful in a sense. Okay, for younger people, ChatGPT. AI could be the modern day, but it's getting very dangerous now. Although it is very handy, useful. Okay, I use artificial intelligence as a research assistant. Okay, help me to gather my information, but not writing. I'm the one who write. I have to remind myself, wow, because it's so talented, so great the temptation. Artificial intelligence, and so many people are into it. You imagine you put your face, wow, like a star, movie star, with this glamour kind of hair, and then young, always look young, but then so artificial artificial intelligence but then people are so liking it. Okay, you're always in your 30s, 40s, so I look good. Although we are already 60, 70. Okay, so what is modern day Baal to you? Remember, it is very attractive. Okay, God's people did not forget God. They just have two gods. Syncretism, but because of that, they have broken the covenant. Because the covenant with God is just, beside me, there's no other God, only one. So we take we actually ask about this cultural and the religion things. Sometimes they are separate. For example, just I mentioned about red color. It's not to say that we wear red now, we are superstitious. No, I like red color myself. It depends on the occasion. Like Chinese New Year, red color is cultural, so we go along with it. So I'm talking about some superstitious people. I mean, like my classmate okay, wow, red color and then fat and all these. So sometimes it is so easy to mix the two, religions and culture. But then culture is good. We must embrace our culture. By the way, my doctoral studies is actually merging the faith and culture. Okay, so I actually do cross-textual interpretation between the Bible, Ecclesiastes, and the Analects. Some Christian they ask me, why you do Analects? Analects is not even Christian text, but then it's my cultural text. You see, I'm from Confucian school, so I read Confucian text. So 论语, Analects is something which is very meaningful, okay, and can speak. How to say? Can form a dialogue between faith and culture, like Christian faith and Chinese culture. So that's my doctoral research. So just affirm you that I'm not talking about bad or against culture. Our culture is good, but then we have to understand the biblical culture also, the Jewish culture. And then if we have time to go to empire, then we have a lot of reflections. Because just now there's a question from a sister about this war and conflict that is going on, and we are going to talk about the empire and neighbors, ancient Near Eastern powers. Actually, for example, Persian in the Bible is what today? Iran, good. And then Babylon is Iraq. And then now, which place is in war? That's Persian in the past, right? Iran. So we are going to come to that and let's reflect together, but we carry on with this. Okay? United Kingdom, United Monarchy period. Break into two era also according to different people. Saul, and then David, and then Solomon. We all know them, right? Saul, and the timing, very quickly we can cross over to David, because Davidic kingdom is the trademark or the representation of Israel nation. Even now their flag is Davidic, star of David. 3 triangles and then dividing each other, so 6 angle star. That's two triangles and then fixed together. So in the Bible, David at the end of the day replaced Saul. We know what happened, become so, become the archetype of their revival. When they return from the exile, they want to rebuild kingdom, although they don't have a kingdom already, because they did not, how to say, regain country, you know. They don't have a nation after the exile. They only have this province of Judah. So they did not have king, so the kingdom, until 1948, all right? So Davidic kingdom, or his era, become the prototype or the example where they want to revive their nation. Of course, they also reviving their temple, trying to build a temple like Solomon's temple. So those are very important names. David Kingdom, Solomon Temple. Okay, also because of their names, the Bible books, David always associated with the book of Psalms, and then Solomon always is related to Ecclesiastes, Song of Songs, and wisdom books. Okay, so we talk about this kingdom when they, after the judges, the period of judges, so they have their own country already because of Saul. Okay, and then Samuel being the one anointed him, then David. So we saw that a nation emerged, getting powerful, and even more powerful. Golden era is the Solomon's era. Okay, no need to fight one, no war. And his name Solomon from Hebrew Shalom, S-L-M, Shalom. That means King of Peace or Prince of Peace. So Shalom, no war. And then very powerful. But then soon divided kingdom. Why the division? I cannot go to the next one. Where is it? What should I do? Here already. Why did they divide? You know one, you read the Bible. The northern kingdom break from the United, bring along 10 tribes. Okay, the main reason is political, because all those who become king are Davidic descendants. That means the other tribes, they don't have chance one, right or not? And then they can tahan David. They give face to Solomon because that time also very good, golden era. But then suddenly the new king take over and then didn't listen to the old folks. And then also people are having other reason also, economic also. You know, all the 10 tribes have to pay tribute, okay, to the southern Judah. And then very easily they break, and then 10 tribes, and then so it is economical reason and political reason. Okay, but then after they split, northern and southern kingdom, which one is more progressive? That means more advanced, developed, rich. Actually, it's northern. Because in the past I thought it's southern. Southern is more legitimate in the sense of because Judah and Jerusalem worship, but then they are more conservative and more stable. Why? Because they live in mountain. Southern is more mountainous area. But northern one, they have many harbors. Tyre, Sidon, we all heard and all those cities. We know from Malacca and Penang, Singapore history, that means a Strait settlement history, all those harbors are important for export-import, cultural exchange. So they how to say, they have connection to the outside world faster, and also bringing in technology faster, right? And also religion. That's why all those harbors many are idol worship places, but our worship center. Okay, but then also bringing in money, trades. So southern kingdom, northern kingdom is richer, and also unstable, politically speaking. Most of the kings take over is not, how to say, going to the sun, but being boosted out, and then power struggle. But southern kingdom, politically speaking, they are more stable. They have good kings, or they also have good kings. Northern kingdom are almost none. A good king, none. But then they are so advanced. So you see, the prophets are speaking against the people, usually towards the southern kingdom. Towards the northern kingdom, they have the most fierce oracles. For example, Amos. You read the book of Amos, Prophet Amos speak against northern Israel, because the people, they are living in, how to say, luxuries, and then indulgence, and then at the same time, at the lower level, people are suffering, oppression, okay, happening. So, rebuking them. So we see, although Northern Kingdom, they are richer, so they fall under Assyrian sooner. So that is 721 or 722, depend on which, how to say, tradition of book you read. Southern Kingdom 587, that means the fall of Judah, no longer have this Judah. So with the fall of these two, one after another, the end of kingdoms for God's people. And it's actually, how to say, it is faith shaking happening to God's people, because the temple also got destroyed. Now, putting ourselves in their shoes, it is a crisis in faith, you know. How can God abandon us? Because the temple is destroyed, and also our country no longer a country. Isn't this place called Promised Land? God is bringing us here, and then see what happened? So what happened? It's not about God, it's God's people, right? Not living in disobedience. And although the prophets are so busy telling them to repent, telling them this is the wrong way, and then speaking against their political alliance, okay, still whatever happened. So we see prophetic movement happens in three phases. Okay, one is pre-exilic, the second one is exilic, third one is post-exilic. Very good, pre-exilic, then exile. Before the exile, that's United Kingdom. Prophets already begin speaking. Now, prophets are not just telling the future. The prophets in the Old Testament are telling forth the message of God. They are preachers. They preach about God's message and then telling people to get back on track, following God's law. Okay, if not, Assyrian will become God's instrument to teach God's people a lesson. Things like that. So that's pre-exilic. During exile, the prophets continue to talk, continue to preach, continue to bring message of hope and comfort, and telling them one day God will gather us back. Okay? And then post-exilic, we also have prophets, like who? Malachi, Haggai, and Zechariah, talking about rebuilding the temple. Okay, and also very mixed, how to say, very mixture of, very complicated post-exilic, because the people of God, they exile and then they come back. Not all of them come back, you know. Okay, those come back, found that their homeland is no longer like the past. How? What's the differences? Okay, prophet message also changed because of this complication. Okay, they begin to have multi-religion setting. Those people who are exiled during Assyrian period and Babylonian also bring other people to come. So it's a mixture of people under his rule. So although change of empire back to Persia, people can go back. Some people they can stay. So we come back and see, wow, our neighbors are all different faith, different culture, speaking different languages. Okay, and in the midst of this, they are rebuilding temple. They are rebuilding their homeland or their community. It's very complicated. The post-exilic period, that means after the exile, actually very much like Christians in Malaysia. Different languages, different religions, and different culture, and different what? Political, ethnic group, like sometimes we say politics, it's close to, how to say, very closely related to our ethnicity, right? It's always mixed. Post-exilic period in the Bible, Ezra, Nehemiah time, is like this. When they are rebuilding the wall, rebuilding their temple, they have to face enemies from all fronts. Even among themselves, Israelites themselves, there are tensions. Okay, you know why? Divided kingdom. Later we come to that. Exile, captivity, 50 years to 70 years, depending on which batch was taken away because 3 batches So group taken to Babylonian, they are officials, nobility, priests. So if let's say we were at that time, are we being taken to Babylon? If you are, those highly influential figures. Okay, those people are being taken away so that they don't have the resources to, to make a comeback. Okay, they don't have money, they don't have position, they don't have power. Okay, so those who are in powers are priests, nobility officials are taken away. So another group remaining in the land, who are they? Farmers, common people. Looks like I'm the one who will remain if I were there. And another group fleeing to Egypt. Okay, not to say they are taken captive, but they run, they flee to Egypt. For example, Jeremiah, he was taken actually. He don't want to go on, not willingly one, but then taken there. So exile about 50 to 70 years. Okay, because of the exile, Jewish people become very good businessmen. That's for the exile. And then also, they don't have a place to worship because the temple was destroyed and they were taken away, run away, right? They are not at Jerusalem. Still, they gather together. No sacrifices, no religious activities, but they can only read the Bible. That means Torah. So they gather, they read Torah, and gather, then become synagogue. So the synagogue emerged because of this captivity. And today we saw Jewish people all over the world, when they gather together, they have synagogue. And the trademark, the must-have item in the synagogue is the Torah scroll. That means they gather together, they read God's words. And the synagogue always locate besides a river. Why? River is for what? Ceremonial washing, correct. Because they are taken into foreign land, it's unclean for them, so they want to clean themselves. So before religious activities, so it's all the more understandable. So after return, now change of government, the Persian take over. So Cyrus, remember Cyrus? Cyrus is a good king, according to Jewish people. Cyrus is Persian, and that's Iran now at war. And then peaceful dominion, he allowed those captivity to return, and also you want to stay, also can stay. That's why not many people return. For example, Esther didn't return, she became queen, right? And the uncle Mordecai. So those are the Jewish people who remain in the land, facing continuing challenges. Okay, and those who return, Ezra, Nehemiah, Zerubbabel. So they return. Some return in 3 waves. Okay, Zerubbabel is the first wave to rebuild the temple. Ezra, second wave, to rebuild the community. And the Nehemiah, third wave, to rebuild the wall, correct. So you see, God used different people to do rebuilding. Today, likewise, God used different people at different time to build up the church. Okay, so are you there when God want to use you? So quiet. Why there are some people don't want to go home? I mean, go back to Jerusalem. Comfortable, very good, very comfortable, because they are successful traders. They make money, right? In fact, when they were being exiled in Babylon and those also in Egypt, they formed center of research for culture, and they focus in their academic research so much. Babylonian Talmud, was produced by this group of Jewish rabbi, and the Egypt one, they produce LXX, that means the Septuagint. That means the first translated Bible in Greek. Originally it's Hebrew, and that's Alexandria. Alexandria, northern Egypt. So you see, they are so good even in exile. And then they keep worshiping the Lord, and then they also study, and then producing papers, books, and then knowledge, and then form 2 very important academic centers. So good, and then translated the first Bible into Greek. Why Greek? Because intertestamental period, change of government, the Greece was in dominion, so national language is Greek language. So everyone learned Greek. So until Jesus' time, it's become official language. So we studied in the seminary, we have to learn Hebrew and Greek. Compulsory subject to understand Old Testament and New Testament. Okay, we go back to the original language and learn. So, intertestamental period now, between the testaments. Okay, Hellenistic period has to do with Greek. Possible historical background of Daniel chapter 7 to 12. Because whatever happening, especially chapter 11, the book of Daniel, you said the southern king and go against with the northern king, and then they have war fighting each other. All these are happening in the intertestamental period. Very interesting period, Persecution. Okay, Antiochus the Fourth. Okay, that's one of the Greece dominion who actually persecuted the Hebrew, the Israelite people, Jewish people, and forced them to eat pig, forced them to sacrifice pig. Pig is, it's haram, it's haram to them, but forced the priests to sacrifice pig, and force them to eat, If you don't eat, I'll kill you, correct? So many people died because of Antiochus the Fourth. And in the temple, he erected the statue of Zeus. Zeus? The god of among other gods, among the pantheon of Greek gods, okay? The Zeus. That's how Hercules came. Hercules is his son, okay, having what relationship with a human, a woman who is a human. So Hercules is a half human, half god. Okay, wow, no, very good, because of movie, right? So Antiochus the Fourth erected the statue of Zeus and asking people to bow down. So the book of Daniel, chapter 2 chapter 3, the bowing down of a statue around, all these have this background. You see or not? So they are being persecuted, and then very severe. Many people died, and that actually sparked an independent war among the Jewish people. We call Macedonian Revolt. Have you heard of it? That happens among the Testament, between the two Testaments. So they fight back, and then they won. They form a dynasty called Hasmonean period. All this happened before Christ. So they have their independent, Merdeka, they call Hanukkah. In Hebrew, it's our Merdeka. Merdeka. Probably it's Hanukkah. Freedom. That means freedom from who? From Greek. Okay, from Greece dominion. So they have their own prince. They go back to something like a kingdom, but not really a kingdom because very short period, only about 100 years, maybe not even that. Okay, they named their dynasty called Hasmonean because the family who actually lead the Maccabean revolt, the grandfather's name, Hasmonean, so Hasmoneans, alright, named after the grandfather. But then later on, the Roman fought them and then end their rules. So Roman rule period. Those are happening in the intertestament period, and we have these small groups. We call coming out from in the intertestamental period, Sadducees and Pharisees. First of all, during the Hasmonean period, when you have a dominion, within yourself, there is one group, very close to the power center. That's the Sadducees. Another group want to go away from the power center and critically, examine their faith against these political alliances. That's the Pharisees. Okay? And then later on, remember Roman rule? Suddenly, Romans stopped the independence of the Jewish people. That means there are one group of people, they want to regain this independence. So they always prepare to fight to regain Merdeka. Those are the zealots. very politically motivated, and always carrying a knife, preparing to get into war when the time has come. Let's go! Wow, fight, 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 fight. And Peter is one of the zealots. Why? Why I know? Some of you are including, you also know, right? So when people want to arrest Jesus, so he cut people's ear, right? He has knife anytime. That means he's a zealot. Essenes is the group of people who withdraw from crowd, don't want to get involved in too much with politics, but devote their time into writing, copying God's words. So all these scrolls produced by them were kept in many caves, okay, until the Essenes already died off. No one knows what happened until 1947. The two shepherd boys discover that there are, how to say, scrolls after scrolls in 11 caves. Now 12, 11 caves. Wow, they are, we call Dead Sea Scrolls. No? Those are the scrolls are being discovered, and many people believe the Essenes were the one who actually copied them down. Besides the Old Testament, there are government documents, records of meetings, okay, and rules and regulations. And then even Old Testament scrolls, there are 33 copies of the book of Isaiah, 33 copies, 22 copies of the book of Psalms. I mean, not just one, you know, except the book of Esther. There's no Esther, okay, among the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay, so those are this group of people, all very actively appear in Jesus' time. And you can see they quarrel among each other. Okay, and among Jesus' disciples, or those interested in Jesus' teaching, are those people. So among the Jesus disciples are zealots. Essene is John the Baptist, okay, and then we have Sadducees people. We have one Pharisee who is, what's his name? He asked Jesus about reborn, sorry. Okay. And then among Jesus' disciples, we have a tax collector. Imagine a tax collector working closely with the government, right? And zealot, anti-government. So you can imagine, without Jesus, they can fight like mad. Okay, so how Jesus picked his disciples, we also don't know. If we were to pick our own followers, we'll pick those who listen to us, right? Not so many mix, because it will complicate your disciple making. That's how Jesus do things, But later on, these 12, really do amazing things, okay, and their life are transformed. So Roman rules, and then end of this history, but we talk a little bit about geography, can or not? Okay. Okay, your page 3. 3 very important regions. Actually, Old Testament it's not very difficult, It is actually very easy only. You just remember 3 regions: Canaan, Egypt, and Mesopotamia. Okay, look at your map. Okay, all this being drawn to you. Okay, this is the first one: Canaan land, the Promised Land. We call Israel now, or you can call it Palestinian. Okay, Jesus' time they call Palestinian. Egypt, the second circle, and then this one depends on which empire. If it is Assyrian, it's a smaller circle. Okay, if it is later on Babylonian and Persian, it's bigger circle. Mesopotamia is the third region. Mesopotamia means the area between 2 rivers. Meso is middle, Potamia is rivers, between the 2 rivers. Meaning, between what rivers? Tigris and Euphrates. And this Mesopotamia today, we still have this place. That's where Iran, Iraq, and some other countries are there. So, in the Old Testament, these 3 significant areas, and you see who is in the center. It's Canaan, the Promised Land. So, in terms of economy, trade, and also in terms of political rivals. This place always in the center. Okay, so whatever big power, superpower take over, affect Canaan, affect Israel. And then Egypt has been so powerful to have dominion over this land, even his influence is surpassing his own land. Okay, later we are going to look at some map. Okay, 3 regions, 6 journey in the Old Testament. What journey? Okay, Abraham journey. Second one is Jacob's family migration to Egypt. I'm going to show you for the journey. Okay, if you have plan or when you go home, you can draw yourself. Okay, the third journey, Exodus journey. Fourth one is Assyrian captivity, and then the Babylonian captivity and the return from exile. Okay, this map. Alright, same map, but I'm going to show you this one in Chinese. Because the first journey, like this. You see this or not? From here, this is in Chinese we call Ur. Okay, that's Abraham journey. Okay? And then Haran is here. So, when Abraham was a kid, he was raised here. And then now he come here. But the father come from here. Alright, first journey. The whole map is called the map, the world in the Old Testament. It's so little only, you see, like this. After the story of Old Testament finished, we are still stuck in here. See, the second journey, going to Egypt. Alright? Okay, different color. And then after that, coming out from Egypt to the Promised Land. Alright? And then the fourth one is the Northern Kingdom become, collapse, and then people being taken captivity to Assyria, Nineveh. Okay, so here or here, so same place. And then after that is Southern Kingdom, Judah, fallen, and then taken into captivity, also that area. And after that, return, change of government, Persian government, they return this area. And end of Old Testament story. So it's not difficult. And then we ask, why they take so far the route coming here and there, but not directly here? Desert, no? They will die there. They will die in the middle because no river. That means no water. Okay, that means no food. So they always follow the river. The river, the valley, always are the place people can go across, and then for trade, for military movement, and also for traveling. Okay, those times. So it is not difficult, right? We're talking about journey in the Old Testament. Okay. Geographical features of the Old Testament world. Any one of you have been to Egypt, have been to Israel before? Good. Okay. But now cannot go. You want to go also can. It's just that you cannot get KDM approval. Kementerian Dalam Negeri, I don't think anyone will approve. But then some Malaysian, they actually still go. Take a risk. Okay, I mean, I'm not asking to take a risk. That means now it's become like, wow, when can I go? I mean, legally. That means with approval. Okay? Some people, they use the route of Singapore, and then you, get a visa from Israel Embassy in Singapore. We don't have and then they go that route. But then insurance is difficult to get. Okay, intersection of 3 continents. This place we call Israel today, they serve as a junction of Asia, Europe, and Africa. Okay, because of the geographical location. And this place we call Israel or Palestine or Canaan. Okay, is a strategic location, make it contested territory. We read in the Bible many wars, conflicts happen in that place. Even the last war, Armageddon, happened also here. Even until now, it is in conflict. Okay? If we look at the topographical patterns, divisions or elevation from west to east, if you have been to Israel, you know when you're in the Dead Sea area, Okay, this area, it is the lowest point of the earth. It is the lowest, even lower than Mediterranean Sea. Okay, so you see the arrow, Jerusalem here to Jericho. When Jesus tells the story about the Good Samaritan, he said there's someone walking and then from Jerusalem down to Jericho, right? Why down? Because of this geographical background law. Then we understand, oh, really go down. And then Joshua, when he led the army, Israel people to enter into Canaan land, they come from this area. Go inside, this is Jericho, right? The first city they encounter. And then after that, after Jericho, the Bible say they go up. They went up, right? Because they have to go up lah. Where else can they go? To the Dead Sea man? They have to went up, they have to go up until the land of Canaan. That means they have to climb. So it is all, how to say, already appear in the Bible. Just that we are more sensitive to the geographical location. Okay, then we can understand more. And then the other way, from the divisions from south to north, okay, you can see Mount Sinai, okay, the river Jordan. Jordan River, the source of water, come from Mount Sinai, and Mount Sinai is, how to say, covered with snow most of the year. So Jordan River, the source of water is from there. So from south to north, this country, even until now, you can have winter here, and then spring here, okay? Even Sea of Galilee, like spring, like that. And then when you go down here, it's become summer, very hot and dry. Okay, 4 seasons in one country. I haven't gone to Mount Heaven before, okay? But then enough to let me know that the water here is very crystal clear, Jordan River. But then when you come to here, it's like a bit murky, and then Dead Sea. Why Dead Sea? Because no way out. Okay. Why no way out? Because the mountain area is suddenly elevated one. So your water cannot go out. So it's always stuck there. It's getting saltier and saltier and lesser and lesser. I've been to Israel 5 times. Okay, so the same place 5 years ago, we said, hey, how come Dead Sea so far away now? It's like, I have to walk very far, And then it's like, last time I remember it's nearer. So it is really shrinking. Okay, the Dead Sea. Dead Sea products. Good for what? Skin, also for facial. Some people like to do facial with Dead Sea products because it's full of mineral. Okay, it's really good one. If you try it before, even your hand, you can feel the difference. I'm not promoting that, I just say that. I'm just saying. Okay, let's see. Directions is also important. In Hebrew, you understand east, south, west, and north. Okay, do I have any? How come got Chinese Okay, never mind. Benjamin, anybody has the name Benjamin here? Your son's name, grandson? What does it mean by Benjamin? Wow, very good. Oh, shit. Ben is son. Yamin is right hand or right. So son of my right hand. So Jacob, changed the name because Rachel actually named her son. That means Joseph's brother as Ben-Oni, son of my affliction, because she was in such pain giving birth to the son. So the son of my affliction. But then Jacob changed the name to son of my right hand. Okay, that tells how important he is. Right hand, Yamin, is right. Okay? If you look at the right hand, stop there. Look at the location, east, south, west, and north. The Bible authors, when they write some information, they actually have this location in mind, but it is not translatable into English or Chinese. Okay? If I stand like this, okay, facing east is in front of me. I'm standing like this. In Hebrew, east is kedem, it is also in front. That means one word share two meanings. Kedem is east and also in front. So when I stand looking at the east, I'm in front. The gate of the sanctuary temple is always facing east. So it's always facing this way. Okay, so if I stand this way, remember right hand? Right hand is Yamin, right? Yamin is my right hand, so the location is correct. So they share the same word. South is right hand. In the past, I don't understand why Hebrew like that. So I stand in this piece of land here. Okay, I'm looking at east. So I'm talking about East Sea. Which sea is it? East Sea. The sea. East. How to say? Donghai in Chinese. There's a sea which is east. Which one he's talking about? The Bible author. Actually, it happened in the Bible, It's sea, not here in the notes. It's Dead Sea. Dead Sea has another name. East, the Sea of East, East Sea. Okay. So also happened in the Bible, West Sea. What sea is that? Mediterranean Sea, and it is behind me. So the west is always behind. Okay. Some translation, it is talking about Mediterranean Sea. Alright, so the left hand is Gimel, is also north. Alright, so I'm standing like this, I can understand the direction already. Okay, yes?
But the Dead Sea there is like near south.
South is here lah. But if I stand here, there's a sea in front of me, there's this sea.
But then if you stand between the Dead Sea and the right side of the map, then
it's south lah. South is always here. You pull this down a bit.
is that a place where they will stand and from there they can say, okay, we're going to call this the East Sea. Is
Okay.
that Jerusalem or where is the point of? Yeah.
Because Judah people, Israel people, they are how to say, their residence is always at the mountain area. Okay, mountain area here. So when they stand here, the sea is always in the east. In front is always here. Oh, alright? And then there is always south. This one is a bit short lah, you can pull down. Understand or not? Okay. Okay. Sorry, can we stand and try? Facing here, facing east. That means facing your front. How will you all stand up and see? Okay, facing like me. Okay, so your right hand is where? Your right hand is south floor. Okay, and then in front is also east. And then your behind is Mediterranean, is west, Mediterranean Sea. And then in front is, if there is a sea, it's Dead Sea. It's also called East Sea. And then your left hand is also north. Okay, good. Why the rest of you give up? You understand already? Why like that, Because I teach Chinese students. This is Joppa, Tel Aviv now. Okay, see, Mediterranean Sea. Okay, this teacher I took myself. Okay, we talk about Shafela. If you see from your page 7, okay, Shafela is where in the Bible, Old Testament especially, people of God, the place where they stay are like Cameron Highlands, are always in the highlands. So Jerusalem is on a mountain, okay, and Jerusalem temple is always in a mountain. And then when they look around, the mountains all surrounding them. So, like mountains surrounding Jerusalem, the Lord is surrounding you. That's from the Psalm, right? Why? Because they live here in this place. So just now answering your question, yeah, here, Safela. Okay? Okay. How come? So significant religion divisions, coastal plain from left to right, coastal plain, Shafela, okay, like Cameron Highland, the highlands, and then central mountain range, then valley of Jezreel is here. And then Negev is here. And then Jordan Rift here. And then Transjordan. That means the country we call Jordan now. I show you this one. Okay, these three important area, but then let me see next slide now. Okay, knowing the difference. Quick one. You know David and Goliath? 1 Samuel chapter 17. Okay, remember the page 7, the map? Shephelah and Coastal Plain. Goliath is from what tribe? From what ethnicity? Philistine. And Philistine live at coastal plain area. They are sea people. They coming from sea and then they live at coastal plain. So they are strong. They are sea people. They master the technology and they begin to use iron. Look at the weapon made from iron. Comparing to Israelite people, mountain area, mountain people, they use the tools for harvest, okay, agricultural tool as weapons. So you can see that actually the fight between the two people, they are not even. Israel people, they are always, slower, less advanced comparing to Philistine. Why? Because they are sea people. And when we read the Bible about David and Goliath, carefully read Goliath with all his armor, and then with his shield, which is 57 kilograms, wow, and then very high, very tall, and then David is just a kid, and then got what tools? Just 5 small stones, right? And he's a shepherd boy. So we all can see this is a disaster, okay, for David. But then, at the end of the day, it's a twist of fate, right? Who won the war? Israel, because of David. Actually, that narrative happens at this coastal plain and Shephelah. The Philistines want to fight and then conquer more space, okay, and taking more area, go into inner circle. But then David and of course King Saul, they are defending their land. So they send people, but then wow, they are all afraid. So this war between David and Goliath happens at this geographical location, okay? And we can understand actually it's a fight for the land, and also not equal in terms of their weapons, but because in the name of the Lord, David, he was fighting, so he claimed victory, okay? Because wow, I come in the name of our Lord Yahweh, so victory. So we all happy. But then with this background, we understand more. We can understand more that it is not just a simple and a very plain story of victory, okay? It also tells us David become famous, and then later on, remember when he became a leader, and there was one time he was being pursued by Saul, okay, and then he hid among the Philistine people, and then he tried to pretend like he got crazy. His saliva come out of his beard, remember? Okay, pretend he's very smart. He was hiding, okay, and then many people believe that during that time he was hiding at Coastal Plain, and he learned the iron technology to make weapons. So after that he became king. Suddenly his kingdom, Davidic kingdom, become very powerful because he learned all this from the Philistine. Alright, so very quickly, go to the next one. Okay, we focus on Psalm 23. The green pasture. Psalm 23, you like it or not? The green pasture is not in the Bible, just pasture, no green. The green one is our translation. Same lah, Chinese also we like 青草地, no green color one. Green color is Malaysian or New Zealand. But then in Israel or in that area, it's like this color. I took this picture, so I tell you this is the truth. Wow, the shepherd boy lead a group a flock of sheep, and then they can find what? Green pasture. They can find food. Following the Lord, depicted in Psalm 23, is following your shepherd. Okay, the eye of the sheep is poor, the eyesight. They can't see clearly. They can easily go astray. But in order to go to the right place for food, you have to follow your shepherd. So the shepherd will actually make sound or even music. That's why David can play music now. So you can just follow the sound because the sheep cannot see clearly. So and then only the shepherd will know where you can find the greenery to eat. Okay, you can't eat things like this, it's not nutritious, right? So those places in Israel land, they have, how to say, water underneath. What you call that? So if you have water underground, that means you can see some greenery planted on the surface, right? Only shepherd can see that. Only shepherd know where you can find food like this for flock. So the sheep have to go and just follow. So Psalm 23 is talking about faithful following. Okay, not just one meal, not just one day, it's every time. In order that people, they can get food, they can be satisfied, and they can survive. Okay, so understanding this background and really going to the side now, what makes us understand the Bible differently? Okay, I thought green pasture is green, no, it's not green. Also tells us that sometimes our eyesight, we do not see, how to say, from the geographical location. What happened? That means I should stop talking. Oh, okay. From the geographical location, you see here, got green trees, right? But then underneath one, all the leaves are being taken off by the sheep because they eat. Okay, so it's interesting to learn this from, to know more of the Bible and to understand more of the meaning of the Bible. When we really understand the culture and also the local context. Okay, one more from Matthew chapter 7. When Jesus talked about building your house on rock and sand, the smart one will build where? Okay, meaning where? On the rock, meaning where? On top of it, right? That's Malaysian way of thinking. Building houses on the rock, meaning building inside here. You see the window? Okay. That means are protected, even from the hot sun, even from the water falling down. You see, all these are traces of, how to say, passing water. Okay? It really happened when the snow, Mount Hermon, melted, and then suddenly, wow, a lot of water flowing here. So all these are trail. Now it's dry. Water flowing here, and then if people are building their tents, residence area, living there, so your house got destroyed. So Jesus was telling smart people build a house inside, stay inside, not on top. That was how I thought. So, like that, So that means you are secure. So God is my refuge and my fortress, and also my shield and whatever. All these have geographical, contextual support, so we can understand more. Dead Sea is near Negev, between the southern area, which is this water is salty. Okay, see the white thing here? All these are salt. Okay, but very near Dead Sea, there is an oasis. Very near. Oasis is, this place is called Engedi, the oasis. Okay, near Dead Sea. 1 Samuel chapter 23, talking about David running away from Saul and he hid in the cave. And then Saul also went to the cave. Okay, because his stomach ache or whatever. Then his garment got cut, right? One piece. So David could survive for a long period of time in Engedi because it is an oasis, meaning it has water, trees, fruits, animals. Alright? And he can even fight against bear and lion, so animals become his food. So 2011, was it my first trip to Israel, so much water. This one, 2022, become like this. Maybe different month huh? So the water getting... so Engadine is my favorite place. Because it reminds me of God's grace in a place where you least expected it. Dead Sea is very dead. There's almost no plant, no animals, you can live in it. But then so near, from Engadine you can see Dead Sea. So near, there is, how to say, blessings. Just at the turning point, okay? Fresh water, food, okay? Engadine, fountain of goods. Engadine meaning the fountains of good, where you can find goods. I believe that become David's food, no? Okay, I took this picture, I quietly go and took 11 goods. So happy. The next time I tried, I can't find any already. So it's come again? Okay, go again. For me, last time I read Bible, Sea of Galilee, I thought is Mediterranean Sea, Sea of Galilee, you saw it from your map, it is actually freshwater lake. It is a lake, correct, and fresh water. So when Jesus and the disciples, they are catching fish, they are all tilapia. Okay, that means freshwater fish. Okay, Sea of Galilee, so wait the sea. Okay, mountain and sea always have meaning. We're talking about geography, mountain, dwelling of gods. In various culture, even Chinese culture, mountains are perceived as the abiding place of deities. Okay, in the mountain there are deities. Same, in the Bible, and the people of God, they live in mountain areas. They are residents. They are more comfortable and secure. Okay, and they say God is with them, just like Jerusalem. God is surrounding Jerusalem. Okay. Sites of divine manifestation and power. See, Abraham, Moses, Elijah encountered God's all got mountains one. Correct, not because of the geographical location also lah, but also, for example, Mount Sinai, Moses making covenant, and in the eyes of foreigners, Yahweh is the God of the mountains. 1 King chapter 20, 23 and verse 28. The enemy said, wow, their God is a God of mountains. Let us fight them on the plain. We will win. And what happened next? God is telling them, just go for war. I'm the God in the mountain and also in the valley. So at the end, God's people win, okay? So from the eyes of other people, they are secure in the mountain area. No, God is dominion, okay? In dominion in every places. Israel, true enough, especially Judah, they are seen as inhabitants of the mountain. Okay, and also Judah, they are more secure, no? Okay, Israelites are often depicted as mountain dwellers, emphasizing their connection to these sacred sites. Well, not to say today, biblical Israelites, they are afraid of the sea. Remember how terrified Jesus' disciples were when they see the storms, Sea of Galilee, and don't forget they are fishermen. Experienced ones. What kind of storm they haven't encountered, right? Still, that means that episode with Jesus, the storm at the sea, is really terrifying. And then Jesus can calm the storm. And only God can do that. So after the episode, they ask, who is Jesus? Their master, their teacher. But then they start asking about his divinity or humanity. Okay, only God can do that, right? So, sea is perceived to be a source of evil. At the creation, God has, Chinese. In the creation, God has put dominion over the chaos, that means the great waters, okay, the mystic power, and put them into different locations. One is beyond the sky, it's called firmament. That means after that, it can come down as rains, snow, hail, whatever, and then here, river, sea, lake, and also beneath that is a place called Sheol, watery. People don't know where, okay? So and then, so for this water area, especially the great waters area, is terrifying because they are perceived to be a source of evil. So they stay away from sea, okay, and they find more comforts in mountain area. In the Bible, the sea perceived as adversary of God, but under God's control. Okay, Assyrian army when they invade. Okay, in the book of Isaiah, chapter 8, verse 7 to 8, describing this army force from the Assyrian army, they will come as an overwhelming flood. Okay, and then will cover the land, okay, until people cannot tahan and they call out to cry out for God. Okay, that's where Emmanuel, the word Emmanuel appear in the book of Isaiah, chapter 8, 7 to 8, 3 times. Because the first Emmanuel, they don't believe in God, then you will cry out, Emmanuel, but then mockery, ironically when no one can help you. Okay, then it's too late. Okay, the Emmanuel, the church is called Emmanuel, right? Okay, the first Emmanuel, when Prophet Isaiah was telling King Ahaz, that means Hezekiah's father, King Ahaz has the heart to follow Assyrian. He want to kowtow to Assyrian because he's strong. So Isaiah was warning him, don't trust foreign powers, okay? But trust in God, because Emmanuel, God is with us. Meaning God is with us. Immanuel, El is God. Immanuel with us, God with us, okay? But then King Ahaz said, he don't believe. So the second time, when Prophet Isaiah talked about Emmanuel, he's still giving chance, saying that God is with us. Don't forget. But then the third time, in verse 8, in chapter 8, talk about Emmanuel, the times it is already too late, because the Assyrian army will come. You trust him, he will come and invade us, cover us, and that's too late. 3 times, So Prophet Isaiah. So it is good that the church can look at Isaiah chapter 7 and chapter 8. Okay, this one, wow, coming as this mighty waters, chaos. But of course, only God can subdue it. Okay? Sheol, likened to Sheol, theological perspective. Why great waters is so represent chaos? Because this Sheol place, somewhere which is unreachable by human. Okay? Scary. But then in Sheol, God is there. You read Psalm 139. Talk about the psalmist want to hide away from God. He said he want to fly away, but then even in Sheol, he find a place, but then God is there. That means you cannot run away from God. Even in Sheol, hide, God is there. Wow, this is important. God set boundaries for the primeval waters during the act of creation. Okay, so people believe, including the author of the Bible, believe that the world was encompassed by this chaotic water. Okay, up to them. But then now they are having their boundaries, because God at creation has set boundary to them. That's why the chaos water only God can command, right? So when Jesus command and calm the sea, they start to think who Jesus is. Okay, we are going to have thunderstorm reflections today at this chapter 1, history and geography. Is it helpful for us to help us to understand more of the Bible, especially the Old Testament? Okay, how does it help to enhance our comprehension of the biblical narratives? We can have Q&A now. Okay. We can even go after 5, right? If you think so. If you want to, because we start late now. Session. Half an hour Q&A. I don't have all the answers, but we can have conversations and dialogue. Okay? And also Pastor Chin Lee can help me answer if I don't know how. She's hiding behind her computer. Okay. Yeah, please, sister.
Okay. Just now you mentioned that David, after his time with the Philistines, then he learned the ironworks and all this, and that's why his kingdom is strong. But wasn't Saul's kingdom also already quite strong, although he set up the army, right? But he was king for some years.
But during Saul's time, they don't have iron, the skill with them. Remember, he actually gave David his armory, his what do you call that? Yeah, armory lah. But then it is too big for David, right? Maybe in that time, during that time, the whole Israel, they only have one piece of this armory, which is made of iron. Okay, or maybe Jonathan also have. Only the king they will wear this. So he give him the best protection. He give David the best protection. Still, David find it, how to say, redundant, too much. So he used his best know-how as a shepherd boy. Stone with the, what do you call that? Sling. And then he took 5 stones, right? Just one only. That means it tells us something, friends. Sometimes we want to copy people, right? Wow, he's so good, this technology is so good. Wow, this one. Then we want to copy and then use it, and then we find it like it's very clumsy. We don't know how to use it. But then in us, God given us talent, skill, and strength. Only you have because of your know-how, because of your experience, working experience, for example, and because of your training. Use that to serve God. Okay? Because it is most fitting for you. Now you can, because of the question now, we can also have Christian reflections on what is the know-how in you, the skill you can use to build up the church. God can use you mightily. You just let God, you become an instrument for God to use so that you can build up the church. In what area? Your know-how, your skill.
Which is why you should all attend worship and university. Whatever you have, just
That's why we need to be trained also. Like David, he has a lot of training, shepherd boy, playfully, just throw. Must have a lot of training, then can just one stone throw and then Goliath fall down. Okay? Kena his head and then die. Okay? That's what we call training. Training is important. Okay, please, brother.
How did the Israelites work out between good and evil? How did the Israelites work out between good and evil in the Old Testament? Because they lived under the law, but did they understand the concept of good and evil? Then during the Old Testament.
Yeah, once again, can you turn on the mic? Good and evil, I heard. How do they work out the good and evil in the Old Testament time? Okay. One more time?
Okay, this is
Can. You want my mic?
How did the Israelites work out what is good and evil, between good and evil in the Old Testament based on this historical?
Why good and evil?
Because good and evil is what in the end, right, between heaven and hell, like Hades and heaven where God is now. Because we talk about the history, we talk about the wars and all that. So God came to give the commandments. But if you don't follow the commandments, then is it evil?
So talking about worldview, maybe good is like godly, and then the evil is ungodly.
Yeah, because otherwise it ends up into thou shalt not, right? And then we know that thou shalt not doesn't work with human beings very well, because whatever we are told not to do, we end up doing, as Paul would say, right? Yeah. So how did they realize that there is good and evil?
Okay. Of course, God is good lah. From the Bible, the book of Isaiah, one thing that struck me very hard, and it's like new thing that I learned is that God create good, and He also create evil. Wickedness, the word. Okay, Ra'ah in Hebrew. Ra'ah is wickedness or evil lah. To me, the word created is bara in Hebrew, only used for God as a subject. Human being, we also can create, but that's another Hebrew word called asa. And then we make things, we make cakes, we make stools, chair, we can make as human. God also can asa, that means make things, but only God can bara, that means create. And in the book of Isaiah, chapter 47, okay, he said God created good and created evil. Wickedness, sometimes translated as wickedness. This one really like, for example, sometimes we hear, why we have all this disaster or bad things happening. And for me, it takes a long time for me to digest. Wow, if we can understand the bad things also come from God, that means we have to be very convicted that all things come from God, even bad things to us. Then we acknowledge God's sovereignty. Okay, because it is so declared, okay, by Prophet Isaiah, saying that God created good things, okay, God also created evil. So that's to answer your question. To them, biblical authors, they believe that all things come from God. And if there's a disaster, misfortune were to befall upon them or their nations, for example, they lost their country, there must be a reason behind. Okay, God is above all this. God's sovereignty.
Because in the creation story, at the end of each of the creation,
it's good.
God is
Good. And then last one is very good, right? Thank you for your question. So we talk about creation story. Out of the chaos, God brings good. And this good is keep on repeating every day. And you see, according to its kind, according to its type, right? It's order. So chaos becomes order. That's because of creation. So in God's creation, He perceived the whole work as good and every day. And the last one is the human become very good. It is because He has already given the world a place of a sustainable survival for human, and also because of order. So in the past, we understand creation as from nothing to something. That means ex nihilo. That means creatio ex nihilo is a word creation out of nothing and then produce something, right? So nothing becomes something. But also creation, according to Hebrew, what constitutes goods is from chaos to order. That's creation from the Bible. So today, sometimes we say we create human. I make a cake. It didn't have a cake, now I make out of nothing. So I participate in this creation act. Okay, because God gives us this gift and talent to do like He did. Of course, not to the extent the cosmic one is not us but also creation understanding is also from chaos to order. Today we look at our life. We say we believe in Jesus. So my old self and my new self, right? It's also talking about order, not just from nothing to something. It's from last time my life was in a mess. Okay, involved in drugs or whatever and now I become a new creation in Christ. New creation. Okay, my life has an order. So that's why it is good to be a testimony for people. So creation, being new creation in Christ, have this orderly meaning. So to reflect on this creation story, we can reflect upon our life. Are we in line with orderly? Well, I'm not talking about mechanical survival. We are Methodist people, very methodological, But then I'm not talking about methodological. We are talking about orderly. For example, when you use computer, is your file orderly in the folder? You can organize That means you organize yourself in such a way where order is found in your life. When you go back to your house, your room, you open your room, it's like, wow, is it a chaos or order? Sometimes my colleagues in their office and say, wow, such a mess. They say, hey, please do something because it's so disorganized, So it tells us, if our life is in chaos, not just this thing, it's like including our timetable, what time you wake up, what time you sleep, okay? It reflects our theological understanding of this creation. Okay? Orderly, but not chaos. Sometimes our world we can't control. It's really chaos happening. For example, suddenly medical reports say that you have sickness, suddenly you have to undergo treatment. That's chaos already. But we can't control. Still, we ask for peace so that how this chaos can become order, order again can become good, and then something good come out of it. So, is your life a reflection of creation and good? What constitutes good? I don't know whether I answer your question.
I'm just wondering because, sorry to take this time, but I'm just wondering whether it is a question of we should live orderly lives, or God is saying to us that even when our life is not so ordered, that He is still with us, and that is why we need to
Of course.
be better.
Of course.
So because scientifically people of course say, we move from a state of orderliness to a state of unorderliness, because that is the second law of thermodynamics. Now work from order to disorder.
Even we
Things
are-
become random.
Even we are disorder, we are bad, God is with us right now. But God doesn't want us to stop there. He wants to bring us into a new me, new direction, and transformation.
So it's consistent.
Yeah, of course. Okay, more questions?
God make the chaotic orderly. Where did the chaotic first come from?
Because of the water. Okay, you know the Hebrew word for this formless and void. In Hebrew it's called tohu wa bohu, nothingness, chaos. It's like, it's actually have to do, there's a Chinese translation for this tohu wa bohu, formless and void. The world is formless and void, right? All got water imagery one. That means the words have to do with water. It's a very beautiful translation. It actually talks about the chaotic water, cosmic water, which is evil from nature. So in the creation, the Bible authors, they mention about God created the world. Actually, the imagery from mighty waters, chaotic waters, and then turns to also water, but orderly water is already in the 6 days of creation. It's very orderly. You see, the 6 days of creation, day 1, day 2, day 3, and then 4, 5, 6. Day 1 and day 4 are connected to each other. Okay? Light and darkness. And then day 4 is what? The luminaries, right? Big and small. And then day 2, day 5. Day 3, day 6. Day 3 and day 6. Day 3 talk about creation from the land. Okay? And then day 6, animals, and then human beings. Stay on the land. So all these is connected and is in orderly. So to answer your questions, the water being subdued, and then set a boundary, God set a boundary, and then they abide in their place, actually are, already in the articulation of the creation itself. The word they use. Chaos is actually have water inside. You still look not satisfied, okay? But never mind. Let me understand more of your question.
Where is the source of the water?
Correct,
So my question is related to that, because when you say that the statement that God created wickedness, is it? Evil.
From Isaiah, from Isaiah.
Good, and He created both good and evil. So that troubles me because
That troubled me too.
my understanding of evil and things that are bad that happen to us is that it's a result from sin.
Okay.
So how do you?
This one informed by New Testament. You see or not? New Testament, with this notion of sin coming in, that's one of the reasoning. But then we read the book of Job, right? The book of Job, where do you think his misfortune come from? It's from the Satan, from Hasatan. That means the enemy, the one who actually want to try to make him suffer, and then actually tested his faith, right? And God allows it. Okay. The sin motive. Okay. The source of all troubles actually more influenced and informed by the New Testament. The Old Testament though, we talk about good and evil, actually all come from God, you know. The sovereignty of this God above all this. It is not that God is in this good force, okay? For this, all the good things, God is in control, but the bad things is controlled by the evil one. It's not like this. Even those two realms, these two realms controlled by God, and although we have Satan, the evil one, will actually have a little dominion over it, but at the end of the day, he still serves God's purpose.
I can accept that
Mm.
controls both
Mm.
realms.
Alright.
But whether he created evil.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you believe in the Bible? Let me find because in Hebrew we make translation in the Hebrew lecture.
Doctor, you said Isaiah 47.
Mm.
45
It's
is
not 45, 45. Okay. Like 45, 45. Can you?
Isaiah.
Thank you. Mm. Very good now, you all find Bible?
Shall I read it?
Yeah, please.
I form the light and create darkness. I bring prosperity and create disaster. I, the Lord, do all these things.
Create. Okay, in my NRSV, what version you are reading?
NIV.
Can you once again?
Which version do you want?
NRSV,
NRS.
New Revised Standard Version. Wow, so fast, you can.
King James, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things.
King James Version is the best. I create evil. Wait, the Bible no, I say one Isaiah 45 verse 7. NRSV, I make will and create woo. W-O-E. Whoa, okay. When I read this, I make my student actually translate Hebrew into English. And then we discuss, hey, what do you think? I also cannot digest, I say, wow, so difficult to digest, hard, right? But we believe in Bible or not? Then we have to make sense of what does it mean? So
Still doesn't make sense.
King James Version, I create evil. So we cannot change the Bible.
There's so many things in the Old Testament that doesn't make, for me,
Yeah.
it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. That's why I study Old Testament. I want to make sense of it. I try to understand it.
It's a lot of contradiction.
They didn't say create chaos. It is the Bible scholars who actually explain the whole thing. Last time you said about nothing was mentioned about water. Where does it come from, right? Before the creation of the world depicted in the book of Genesis, actually three things seems to be already there. The one is water. Okay, the second is the land. Okay, seems to like already there, no? Didn't say God created the earth, right? And also darkness, because God created light. So it's like, wow, that means some scholars even say it is really like not to say nothing at all, it's something there, interpretation, and of course, vegetation, all these animals become nothing, become something, it exists, we still believe that part. Is the orderly part we always miss. Creation means from chaos to order, disorder to order, and we need to embrace that.
Could it be understood this way, that between good and evil, God created what is good, but He allowed what is evil rather than He created evil?
Because then he gives us choice.
That is one of
Otherwise it's not
the interpretation of Bible scholars. They try to make sense of, but still created the word bara. Only God used subject as a subject. Use the word. Oh, okay. Sorry. This is the first.
I think this Isaiah 45 was Isaiah saying these things to the king, right? So wasn't this more of a message that God is telling the king that I will allow this and this and this, but not that I am creating the good and the evil. But I will allow the evil to happen because I am in control.
Then the Bible author could have used the word allow rather than create. Is the word create wrong? That is
But
possible.
because that is in English, what is the Hebrew word?
Bara, create. Yeah, so this. Yeah, speculate can. We can
Speculate. God created Lucifer, isn't it?
Yeah, he's one of the messengers.
So he is the evil lah.
Who is the evil?
Lucifer.
Lucifer is the evil.
God created Lucifer, what?
So the evil is referring to Lucifer lah. Okay? Yeah. What question is that? Yeah, just now any question was asked that I didn't have time to. Yeah. Yeah, I forgot one question already. Okay. Yes. So the Iranian war. Yeah, because we didn't cover that. Okay.
Maybe some questions cannot be answered by today.
Yeah, we can.
I do
Discuss
have
again.
another question.
Right.
But intrigued by the rise and fall of the kingdoms, northern and southern, and as well as those conquerors, the Assyrian, Babylonian, Persians, and the Greeks and the Romans, and after Roman again was conquered. So rise and fall of nations. So why nations fail? That is my question. So in your course of your own research, you're studying all of your Greeks, dynasty, or elsewhere in your course of reading, I'm sure you come across people forwarded some reasons why nations fail. I think the common factors, probably because they lost their authority, their centralization before. That is the reason, and why people aims to be authoritative. They want to come into power. Saul, David, Solomon, and after that, subsequent kings failed as well. I think one reason is because of exploitation. They never follow justice as God advised them. And the other thing aspect is the talents that he have been using. David, using slings and all that, and they later learned how to make irons. These are technology. Who started? Who should encourage this? In a more exploitative, or we use the word extractive economy, that means the rulers will try to extract as much as possible through taxes and all that from the common people. And the people at the top are usually the elite who are with together with the kings, with the rulers or whoever in power. And there will be newer people who try to come up to usurp, try to overcome and become the new group of elites. So this one, history repeats itself, and I understand that. But for the northern and southern kingdom and subsequent empires, probably we can see some similarity. So the question is, are there studies for those empires mentioned in the Bible? Studies done to find out what are the common failures, why nations fail. So perhaps not today.
Why nations fail? According to what we understand from the fallen state of Judah and Israel, they are deviating from the way of the Lord. Actually, the Lord brings them to Canaan land, this place flow with milk and honey is to prosper them. In fact, actually, the Lord not just want them to occupy that area. God bless them and say, you and your descendants, tell Abraham, will live until the places of the rivers. That means as far as Tigris and Euphrates. Okay? That means not just this piece of land. That's God's plan for them. But then their kingdom was built there, and then one after another fall. And then later they were taken exile, right? Where? Where to? The place. So they actually eventually they stay at this place, wider than before, but sadly because of deportation, because of the exile. So God wants to prosper them. Daniel chapter 2, okay, from the word of Daniel, he said, God, the name of God, he changed time. Okay, blessed be the name of God from age to age, for wisdom and power are his. And then chapter 2 verse 21, Daniel, he said, he changes time and seasons, he deposes kings and set up kings. Okay, and knowledge to those who have understanding. Okay, so war is going on, and then it also affects us slowly. The cost of living is higher now, and Iran is Persia from the Bible. So many Christians ask, okay, so where should we stand? Actually, this question, it really like, this is my stand. We really can fight in the church or every church. Okay, but what I understand from the Bible, it's not choosing side on which country. It's discerning where is God in this conflict. If God's people were to be oppressed by the foreign powers, He will act to protect His people. That means bringing them out of Egypt, because they were oppressed by Pharaoh. Okay, they were slave. They were made slave, hard labor, make bricks. But then later on, His people become oppressor. God rebuked them. God stand with those oppressed and want to bring justice to these people and go against His own people. And that's one thing I learned. God always stand with the one who is oppressed and bullied. So it is difficult to make a stand in this conflict. We need to discern what God is doing. And then we also can evaluate, although we call this nation Israel, then the way they do sometimes is more like an oppressor than the oppressed. When they have the power, they actually can oppress people, right? Our prayer and our prayer and also our care and concern should go along with those who are innocent. Okay, children, old people, women who died, okay, and all this innocent suffering, okay, coming from all this conflict. So, if you ask me how to pray, I really pray for peace. No war. Jerusalem is city of peace. Ir Shalom. City is Ir. Shalom, peace. Ir Shalom, two words become one. Then Yerushalayim. That's city of peace. So Jerusalem is city of peace. Today, our church, every church should be a city of peace. We proclaim peace and we are messenger of peace. Okay, so I like the speech by the Pope. Okay, full of wisdom. You know, any prayer that promotes and advocates for war does not come from God. I agree with him. We should make peace, not to make war. Right? Even in the church setting. Whenever there's conflict, we actually, not to say we compromise. It's just that we can do things in a way that promotes peace and understanding. Not to raise war, fighting, and then blood, throwing blood, all this. So like this, I mean, we don't take stand. Best way, when we discern. Okay, from what we understand from the Bible, where is God? You see how Jesus, I don't know how to do, and then I ask, what would Jesus do if He is here? How would Jesus look at the conflict now? Based on what we understand, God, Jesus, how He treats the Samaritans, okay, the oppressed, the weak, how He embraces them. According to you read more, the book of Because the gospel according to Luke, you understand, Jesus always stands with the oppressed, the marginalized, and the weak. And we should protect this group too. Alright, okay, I think too much.